I'm the Great Papyrus. Hi y'all, I'm Aislinn. Welcome back to my channel. I am gonna talk about my October TBR because September is already over and I don't know what I did with the month reading wise, but anyway, I'll talk about that in my wrap up. But here I'm supposed to talk to you about the books that I want to read in October. And I had a whole October TBR planned and I had it all written out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna tackle this book because I have it on my need to read by the end of the year list, etc, etc. I had planned it all out. And then I discovered that the Supernatural-athon is happening again, which is hosted by Steph over at Steph Loves on YouTube. And I figured, why the fuck not? I literally decided to do this last night at about, I don't know, 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. I was, in my head, I was like, I should participate in the Supernatural-athon. Even though I told myself, like in my head, I was like, I'm not going to participate in any readathons in October just because I'm going to be really busy. The Buzzword-athon, as you could guess, did not work out. But that was happening literally the busiest week of work so far. So it just was a whole mess. But now, here we are. But the Supernatural-athon is for the whole month. It's from October 1st to October 31st. So I was like, okay, this is different because it's just like me reading for the month anyway, but there's still prompts. And listen, not to be that bitch, but I am Supernatural trash. So for those who are fellow Supernatural fans, if you're watching this, full disclosure, I have not finished watching the series. Like I know the series isn't over yet, but I have not caught up. The last season I watched was it season 11 or season 12? I genuinely can't remember. It's the one that had Amara in it. You would know what I'm talking about. Like, you will know if you have watched it what I'm talking about. And I genuinely just can't remember if it's season 11 or 12. I'm pretty sure it's 12 because I own 12 like on my computer. So in my head that would make sense. So I haven't caught up. I've seen like some spoilers for what they've done, and I have mixed feelings. But anyway, I will end up like finishing the series. So there are 15 prompts that Steph has created, and I love how she took either the most popular episode rating wise from that season or just her favorite episode from that season. And also, yes, Steph, Yellow Fever is the best episode of season 4, by the way, just saying. You are correct. I'm gonna go through and tell you which books I'm gonna be reading for which prompt, and literally I have adapted some of my previous TBR to this. I scrambled and I was like, oh my god, I have to make these fit these prompts. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules here, as Steph was saying, so some of it might be a stretch, but we're doing it anyway. There's also a couple other books that I just want to read because I told myself I was going to read them because it's spooky month, and you know me, I have to read spooky shit. I will also be throwing some additional books in here, but I will talk about those after. I'm gonna talk about my Supernatural-athon TBR first. And I also thought, just for the fucking fun of it, because I'm not busy enough this month with work and everything, I'm gonna try to finish my rewatch of season 1 of Supernatural, because I had slowly been rewatching it. I don't know, I started a few months ago just because it's like a comfort show, you know. I've seen it enough that I can watch without paying attention but like still know what's going on, and I just get immense joy from watching it, especially the early seasons because it's so nostalgic. I think I'm on episode like 8 of season 1, so I'm just gonna continue watching it throughout the month, and I'm gonna try to watch like spooky movies and stuff too. If you're also rewatching Supernatural, let me know. So we're here, we're ready. I have channeled my inner Dean Winchester. I have a band shirt, and I have my plaid flannel going on. Honestly, like, this is just me on a regular day anyway, so like I don't really think this is me channeling Dean because I have a very similar style to him in the female version, I guess. But I had to put on a themed outfit because why not? I would put on a leather jacket that I have as well, but it's really hot in here and I'm already sweating in my flannel, so that's not happening. But anyway, let's get into talking about the Supernatural-athon and these props. I'm gonna be really fast because there's 50 props, and if you know me, I like to ramble. So the first prop is Devil's Trap, which is a symbol on the cover, and for this I'm gonna be reading The Whites of Their Eyes, a collection of queer horror by Zan or Cody McCade. I have this on my Kindle. I have owned it for about a year-ish, I think. It's queer horror, you know, it's really short stories, so I don't think it will take me that long to do it. I'm gonna try to maybe read a couple short stories a day. Not a couple, I guess. One a day, and I should be able to get through it fairly quickly. I think it will be a really great way to start off spooky month, because what better way than some short stories. The second prompt is All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2, which is a book with a supernatural being in it. For this, I'm going to be reading After the People Lights Have Gone Off by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a short story collection as well, and I'm fucking excited. It says it has myth and legend creatures in it and like tags on Goodreads, so I was like, perfect, that's good enough, because trying to find a specific book with a supernatural being in it that I already had on my TBR that I could easily access was difficult, because I'm trying not to buy books right now. So this is available on Scribd as both an audiobook and an ebook, so I'm going to be reading it on there. Just the idea of the sentence of all the people lights have gone off makes me think a lot of things, and I don't know what they could involve, but I have some suspicions. The third one is Mystery Spot, which is a reread, which is also just one of my favorite episodes in general. It's so good. For the reread, I'm going to be reading The Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan, because I restarted this series this week. I just started rereading The Lightning Thief a couple days ago. I know I'm gonna finish it by the 1st, so I'm gonna reread Sea of Monsters. Even just like thinking about like everything within this just makes me very emotional. So this, like Supernatural, this is like my favorite series, so rereading this is a lot. The fourth prompt is Yellow Fever, as you could guess, and that is a comedy thriller or horror book, which was a bit difficult for me to decide what to read, because again, as I said, I'm trying not to buy books at the moment, so it's a lot harder when there's like super specific prompts, I guess. This, I had to do some digging to like find what people would consider a comedy thriller or horror. So I have decided to read the Welcome to Night Vale Volume 1 book, because this was already on my list and it is available on Scribd as an ebook. I have not listened to the podcast. I do want to. My friend Egg has recommended it to me, and she recommended me another one done by the same producers, which I had started, called Within the Wires, which is really good. So I don't know if the podcast is the same as the book, like they've just written down the podcast, or if it is totally different and it's just set in the same world. I think counts as a comedy thriller. I don't, like, a lot of people don't classify it as horror thriller, but it has like those weird macabre elements in it, I think, that are just enough to make it sinister but funny. So I think this will be good. I'm interested to see how I feel about it, because this is the first book I think that I'll be reading that's originally was a podcast or is from or related to a podcast. The fifth prompt is Changing Channels, which is like book to movie or TV show, like an adaptation. So for that, I'm gonna read The Sword of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski. I have to like remind myself that there's an extra K in there. So if you watch my 5 books to read by the end of the year video, look, you'll know I'm checking one off. Look at me go, I'm so happy. So the first season of The Witcher is based on The Last Wish and this, so I've read The Last Wish, so now I'm going to read this, so I can actually start the fucking series. It is longer, but I honestly doubt this will take me that long. For The French Mistake, which is prompt number 6, that is read a sci-fi. I'm gonna finally read Want by Cindy Pon, another book from my read by the end of the year video. Wow, Aislinn, you're doing amazing. I know, thank you. That's probably what you were thinking, right? Now's the time. This is the month that I'm finally gonna read it. It's not like set in space, it's set in futuristic. I feel like I said it was Taiwan and I want to still say it's Taiwan. I should have checked that. Basically, like, air is currency almost. Like, it's so polluted that if you're poor, you can't afford air and you get super fucking sick because the rich have like bubbles. Like, you can see it in the cover. He has like a thing around his head because he goes under disguise. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it after I read it because I'm finally gonna read it. October is the month. October is the month that it's gonna happen. I'm manifesting this right now. If I honestly don't read this book by the end of the month, I genuinely think that I'm just not meant to read it. Or there's something wrong with me. That is also a possibility. Maybe I'll read this first just to fucking make sure that I do, because otherwise, knowing me, I will just put it off and then it won't fucking happen. Not to just rant at you guys, because that's just me ranting at myself, which is the camera. So, someone make me read this book. The 7th prompt is Death's Door, which is a sad book, which I genuinely had to also think about for a bit because I try not to spoil myself for certain books, and I don't really have a book on here that, on here I gestures, if you can see my cart, it's over there. On my TBR cart, that is a well-known sad book. The one that did come to mind is The Rail Thieves by Sherry Dibbleed. Again, another of my one that I have to read by the end of the year books. I'm so fucking big brained. Like, I'm just doing it all with this Supernatural-athon. Look at me fucking go. As I mentioned in my 5 books I need to read by the end of the year video, I got to see Sherry Dibbleed talk at my university a year or 2 ago. And she talked about her experience writing this book because she went to a writer's residency for it and all this stuff. And she talked about how there was this moment when she was like getting towards the ending, let out this big scream of, I guess, agony and sadness, and like all the other writers that were there came running and were like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Like, what happened? And she's like, I have to kill a kid, and like was like crying and everything. And I was like, great, so my heart's gonna be stomped and crushed on when I read this. For prompt 8, which is LARP and the Rail Girl, which is a queer fantasy book, I am going to read Wicked as You Wish by Rin Chubeko. This one's a bit rough in the sense that I should have already read it and I have not. I honestly don't know the premise of this book. I cannot remember, but it's queer, it's a fantasy. I think it will be good. That's all I really can say about it. I'm gonna read that. If I find a different book, I may change it because I do remember when I read the synopsis, I wasn't super crazy about this. So I'm gonna plan to read Wicked as You Wish. And maybe I'll end up loving it and it'll be like a new favorite book. That would be really cool because the fact that I don't really remember a lot about it, but that's just me. So, but that would be really interesting. For 9, which is Dog Dean Afternoon, the prompt is to read a book that features an animal. For that, I'm counting The Sea of Monsters because there's hippocampi in here, okay? And I wanted to say the Pegasus. I wanted to say the Pegasi. Is it Pegasus? No. Pegasi. Is it hippocampuses? No. No. Hippocampi. Either way, there's like mythical creatures in here, which I'm counting as animals because they're animals in Greek mythology. That counts in my mind. There is sheep in here. There's sheep. There's also sheep, so if you don't like my hippocampus answer, ha! I knew there was another animal in here and I just couldn't remember, but it's a sheep. So I'm just gonna double count this because I feel like adding another book to my TBR would just be chaos in the making. For 10, it's fanfiction, which is read a fanfiction book, so like either involves fanfiction or was fanfiction and is now published. This I also had difficulty deciding what to read because I have no desire to read Rainbow Racist Rowell, so I have already read after, because I read it when it was a fan fiction, like fucking how many years ago was that? When it was on Wattpad and it was still like Harry and this, Harry that, and it said 1D fan fiction. Like, I read it back then because it made its circulation around the fandom, and I was like, what is this trash? Like, I have to read it. And then I read most of the fan fiction because it was like 30 chapters long or something at that point. I can't even remember. And I used to write fan fiction. Did I publish it? No, but I did write it. And there was some phenomenal fanfics that I have read in my day. So, just saying, some of them are great, some of them are not so great. But anyway, the one that I'm reading, it was a fan fiction and now it has been published as a book, is Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lauren. I don't know why I said her name, like said the name like that, because I knew the author's name. But anyway, this was a Twilight fan fiction, which is now, as you could guess, I think it's the first book in a series. It's either part of a series or it's the first book in a series that they have. That's like the Beautiful series. I've read Christina Lauren's before. I really have liked them. I loved Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I really enjoyed the Unhoneymooners, and the other books from them that I have read, I have enjoyed as well. This is one of their older works, so I don't know how it will be, but I'm intrigued, and I always kind of looked at the series and wasn't sure, so I guess now is the time to read Beautiful Bastard because it was a fan fiction and it fits for this prompt. So here we go. It's also on Scribd, so I don't have to buy it. Love It is Baby, which is read a book with a vehicle on the cover. And for this, I was like, how am I ever gonna find a book that has a vehicle on the cover? And then I remembered Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roadhorse, which has a truck on the cover. So this is a adult sci-fi post-apocalyptic book. I honestly can't remember most of the plot, but I know it involves like mythical creatures, there's some powers, end of the world, you know, all good stuff. And I'm very thoroughly enjoying that. Like, I will enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to say, because talking is difficult. It's been a long day. The 12th prompt is regarding Dean, which is a book featuring witches. So for this, I'm reading The Year of the Witching by Alex Henderson. This is also a book club pick for a book club that I've joined online. I am looking forward to it. I've heard quite good things. I think it's pretty fucking spooky. It involves witches, as you could guess. I'm pretty sure there's like a spooky forest. The cover is beautiful, and I'm just very much looking forward to it. The 13th prompt is Scooby-Natural, which is a graphic novel. Also, I just want to say that this is like one of the episodes that I'm most excited to watch when I do finally fully watch Supernatural, like from where I left off, because Scooby-Doo was like my absolute favorite show as a kid. So to have this fucking crossover is like dream come true. I'm just so hyped. But anyway, for this, I'm reading a graphic novel called Low, The Delirium of Hope. This is a long title, and it's by Rick Remender. So this is volume 1. Low is a sci-fi dystopic graphic novel. It seems interesting. I literally was just looking on Indigo for other books when I came across it, and I was just like, this cover reminds me of Subnautica, which is one of my favorite video games, and it sounds interesting. Let's just buy it. And now I feel like I should have checked the reviews because I was too lazy to do so last night because I was literally in bed, like on my phone doing it. And looking at the reviews today, a lot of them are very low and state that it's very confusing and the plot makes no sense and all this stuff. So I'm like, great, I just bought this and I could return it, but now I'm committed. So I'm not going to, because I want to see if this really is that confusing and if I end up hating it. The 14th book is, or 14th prompt, sorry, is Lebanon, which is about a family, and you can kind of interpret this. So for that, I'm reading Mexican Gothic by Silvia Marino Garcia. It's about Naomi who's going to find her cousin. So it's like family, that's family. And it's spooky, so I want to read it. And that I thought was applicable enough. And I've heard many good things about this. This is perfect for spooky season. I still can't get over how beautiful it is. It's gorgeous. So this is the one that I'm going to read for the family prompt. Because what's what's not family if not going to find your cousin who has just been married and now you think she's in terrible danger because her husband might be a killer or some other form of shape. Spooky. We love spooky. I'm the great papyrus. The last prompt, which is prompt 15, is Carry On My Wayward Son, which is the next book in a series. For this, I am going to read A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir, because spoiler for my September wrap up, I did not get to this in September, which is strange because I am so excited to continue this series, but it just didn't happen. And I think part of it is still my mental block of, I don't want series to end. Let's not read it because then it won't end thing that I do. But this isn't even the last book. The last book comes out in December, but I think it's because I've heard that this one is emotional and there's a lot that happens, and I don't want to have to wait to find out what happens in A Sky Beyond the Storm because I know my heart will probably be crushed. I do need to continue this series and know what the fuck is going on, because there was so much shit that happened in the second book that I am like, woo, what is happening? Those are the books that I want to read for the Supernatural-athon. There are 2 more books that I want to read in October, which is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones and then Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. These are both novellas. As you can see, they are super duper short, so I know that I can read these easy peasy. They're both like just over 100 pages and I'm easily gonna get through them. They're both spooky. This one involves ghosts. This one involves mannequins and a killer, as you could guess from the blood on the front. I think they're both very different, but they are both spooky and they're both by Stephen Graham Jones, so why wouldn't I read them? So those are all the books that I'm planning to read in October, both for the Supernatural-athon and then otherwise. Please let me know down below if you're also participating in the Supernatural-athon and if you've made a TBR, what you want to read. I'm very excited. Thank you to Steph for hosting it. I'm so pumped. I will also note that I'm not reading the group book for the Supernatural-athon, which is The Dividers by Libba Bray, just because I've already read it, and with all the other books that I want to read, I just don't think I'll have time to reread it, but I will probably attend the show or discussion for it anyway, because I do know what happens in it. It's been a while since I've read it, but I would like a refresher, so maybe I'll go for that anyway. But what's a book that you have to read in October, or what's a spooky movie that you're gonna watch for the month? And let me know down below. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so you can talk about books with me, because who wouldn't want to? And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!